My Etsy sales did not start growing when I worked harder. They grew when I finally simplified my strategy for the platform. So, if you are exhausted from trying to do everything all at once, this episode today is going to be a huge relief because I'm going to tell you to stop doing that. Hi, I'm Sarah, and today I'm sharing something a little bit more personal. This is the real story of what my Etsy strategy looked like before I grew on the platform, what finally pushed me to change, and how simplifying my approach led to faster sales and a much healthier business. And before we dive in, if you have not listened to or watched my last YouTube episode, that's the one that talks about how many products you actually need in order to get sales on Etsy. That episode really sets the stage for this one. It kind of gives the context for why simplification matters. And today I'm going to show you the personal story behind that. If you've not watched that, the link is in the description. Make sure you check it out. And if you want to learn the visibility system that actually supports the simplified strategy, make sure you check out my free Etsy masterclass. The link will also be in the description, whether you are listening or watching on YouTube today. Okay, so before things changed and before I adopted this new simplified strategy, my Etsy shop and honestly, my entire brain was really all over the place. I had new product ideas constantly. I was thinking about them 24/7. It didn't matter if I was at work or with my family. I was always thinking about new ideas that I could make. And every idea was in a completely different product line, targeting completely different buyers and completely different keywords. I was not just thinking about any of them, right? I was acting on all of them. That meant I was buying brand new supplies. I was learning new techniques. I was starting brand new listings. I was doing my keyword research process over and over and over again. I was creating product lines with one listing in them, maybe two. There was zero strategy behind any of it. It was just constant inspiration followed by distraction. And even though I wasn't restarting my entire plan every few weeks, I was always chasing the next idea. And it was costing me a ton of time, money, and energy and progress, to be honest. And then I had a moment that completely stopped me in my tracks, and it ties directly into what we talked about in the last episode, which was at the end of the year, I totaled up all of my numbers and I had made $500 in revenue. But once I subtracted all the supplies and the materials from all of those kind of scattered ideas, I realized I was negative in profit. And that moment really shook me because I had a full-time job. I had a baby at home. There was no way that I needed to be losing money on this business. And honestly, the truth was like very brutally clear because I realized I could have just gotten a part-time job and I would have made more money and worked fewer hours and probably slept better too. So after all of that, I realized that the problem wasn't my effort. I was working so hard all the time, but it had to be my strategy. And the last episode on YouTube that I talked about really explains why too many product lines created that exact problem. My experience here is the lived honest example of what happens when you spread yourself too thin. So the shift that I made next, and the one that changed everything, is that I stopped chasing every new idea. I stopped pouring money into new supplies. I stopped reinventing my shop. I did not rebrand. I instead chose one product line to prioritize. I built around one keyword family and I optimized instead of starting over and relying on inspiration and trying a million different things. I stuck with one direction long enough for Etsy to actually respond to what I was doing. So it wasn't about doing more or less work, but more consistent work in one particular place in my shop. So for the first time, my shop had a strategy instead of just scattered creativity and inspiration. And just like I explained in that last episode, once you focus, the results start to snowball. That is 100% exactly what happened to me. Once I simplified, everything became so much more clear. Etsy started to notice my listings more. I was getting tested for new keywords, and I started noticing some patterns in my visibility. So I could finally tell what was working and what wasn't. I wasn't wasting money on brand new experiments every month. I was not stretched thin or overwhelmed. For the first time, I was really focused. That created momentum, which created sales. But here's the deeper part of this story. It's kind of the mindset piece, and that really played a huge role in all of this. Back in 2015, hustle culture really was everywhere. If you looked, no matter where you looked on Instagram, right? The message was, if you are not working constantly, you're falling behind. And I really believed it. That's how I treated my business. Felt like if I was not sitting at my computer every single night, pushing out more products or more ideas or more listings, then I wasn't doing enough and I wasn't going to succeed. It finally reached a point where I literally had to track how many nights I was not working because taking time off for me felt wrong. I spent most of 2021 tracking in my planner how many nights I worked and how many nights I didn't. It felt like even though my business was doing so well, that I was failing because I did not have any balance in my life. I was working all the time. So looking back now, I really wish I had rested more and given myself some space to really breathe from the very beginning. That certainly would have come a lot sooner if I had realized much faster that hustle culture like that does not guarantee growth, but a very focused strategy does. Simplifying did not just help my sales grow, it helped me reclaim my time and my energy and my sanity, to be honest. And that is exactly why I wanted you to hear this story today, because that same shift is available to you if you are ready to simplify your strategy and finally understand how Etsy builds visibility in real life. I want you to join my free masterclass. You're going to find the link in the description or the show notes of this episode. It's the exact framework that helped me shift out of hustle mode and into real sustainable growth. Okay, one last thing before you go. I would love to know what part of your Etsy strategy feels the heaviest or the most overwhelming right now. If you are watching this on YouTube, feel free to put it in the comments. I would love to help you with this. If you are listening on your favorite podcast player, please send me a DM on Instagram so we can chat about it. Then if you've not watched the latest YouTube episode, make sure you go back and catch that one. Again, it's linked in the show notes. It connects directly to this episode and it's going to help you understand why simplifying works so well. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.